welcome to Close Listening. I'm Zach Morgenstern, joined as always by silent co-host Ludwig von B. And the record we're talking about today came out in 1970, and it is called Elton John, just Elton John. One might think this was Elton John's very first album, and I believe for United States audiences it was, but in the United Kingdom, an earlier album called Empty Sky came out that wasn't released in the US until 1975. But really, if you were to listen to this one, you would think it is Elton John's first ever album because it starts with his early famous song, Your Song. So I came to this album for the same reason I came to a lot of albums on the channel. I was very much invested in Elton John as an artist. I've even seen him play in concert on his very long farewell tour. But I haven't really listened to him ever in album form. You know, growing up, lots of the time I listened to music, I listened to greatest hits CDs, and I feel like I missed out on that experience of lots of people who grew up in the sort of true age of vinyl when you were actually buying the studio albums as they came out, watching the discography evolve. So it was fun to get my hands on this Elton John record and to discover the songs besides Your Song. Now, if you have not heard Your Song, it's a great tune. My wife has actually pointed out to me that the way a lot of musicians start out their career is they start out with a song that's simple subject matter, but still catchy. They play it safe to get their hit. She points out the example of Lady Gaga starting her career with Let's Dance before getting weirder, for example. And I suppose Your Song is kind of that for Elton John and his lyricist, Bernie Taupin. You know, it's just an I love you kind of song. It's a simple message, but the lyrics are eccentric and it's just perfect production. I mean, you have the lushness of the strings topped by the distinct voice of Elton John's piano and the distinct literal voice of his singing. But beyond that, the songs get a bit more eccentric on this collection. Track number 2 is called Need You to Turn To. If you just look at the lyrics, it's a You're My Rock kind of love song. It's nothing too interesting. But musically, it takes on this Baroque style with even the sound of a harpsichord, a sort of pre-piano piano playing into it. And I wasn't crazy about it. I felt the seriousness of the delivery and the Baroque production made it feel more like a style gimmick than a song. When I look at the lyrics, I could imagine this being a more fun song, something more catchy if taken in a different direction. I think Bernie Taupin put in a good effort, but I think maybe one of the structural problems you get when you have different people writing lyrics and writing a song is they both feel like they have to bring their full effort to the table, right? You can't just think, okay, this song is about lyrics or this song is about music. So probably Elton John thought when coming up with a song is I have to come up with a good arrangement or some interesting music. So he gave it this real old-fashioned classical or Baroque sounding thing, and it just comes across as a bit too much for me. Track number 3 is called Take Me to the Pilot. This one almost sounds like a hit, but the lyrics make it a bit more eccentric. Bernie Taupin has said he didn't really know what it was about. It kind of sounds musically like the Cat Stevens song called The Joke, and its lyrical content, it sounds like a version of Alien saying, take me to your leader, but it seems to more literally be about the fact that it can be very hard to tell what someone is truly saying, what subtext is below your speech. So the metaphorical alien in the song is saying, not take me to your leader, but take me to the pilot of your soul. I want to know what you're really thinking. Track number 4 is another fun one. It's called No Shoestring on Louise. It's loosely about a badass woman, and it also feels like it's playing tribute to the Southern roots of blues and rock and roll, perhaps even the notion of the devil teaching Robert Johnson guitar at the crossroads. Track number 5 is called First Episode at the Heinzen. Don't really know what that means. Musically, it feels kind of similar to Need to Turn to You. It's a very somber delivery with classical instrumentation. The lyrics themselves, again, are kind of interesting. It seems to be about the absurdity of regret. So the singer, for example, regrets not appreciating how much time he enjoyed spending with his friend Valerie when they were younger. He mournfully sings, but now Valerie's a woman. But the thing with that is it's not necessarily that the singer didn't appreciate their friendship when he and Valerie were younger. He probably did. It's just you can never live in a past moment. You're always living in the present. So it'll always feel like the past was lost, you know, even if you did live in the past pretty well. Track number 6 is called 60 Years On. It feels like When I'm 64, but with like kind of hyper serious sound. The over-the-top orchestral arrangement kind of reminds me of Neil Young's A Man Needs a Maid. So again, bringing this real sort of somber, old-fashioned feel to the same record that gave us Elton John's Your Song. Track 7 is called Border Song. This one has an undoubted spiritual feel to it, given its constant refrain of Holy Moses, I have been deceived. I don't think it was written about actual state borders, even though, in the post-Donald Trump era, that's what you think about when you hear the title. But nonetheless, I think the metaphor of the song holds up well if you want to use it as a sort of modern protest tune. So conservatives will often say we have to be tough on immigration because real states have borders. Like you can't have a country without a border. And of course, radical thinkers will say, well, why not? It's not a compelling moral argument to say, let's do this just because, when there are suffering people who need a better place to live. So I guess that refrain of Holy Moses, I've been deceived is maybe saying, we've taken it for granted we have to have these strict borders, but maybe we don't. Track number 8 is called The Greatest Discovery. This one again has a Baroque sound to it, kind of sounds like a Christmassy tune. This one is written from the perspective of a young boy, and he discovers, you want the spoiler for The Greatest Discovery? 3, 2, 1, spoiler. He discovers that he has a new baby brother. And apparently this discovered baby is the lyricist Bernie Taupin himself. He wrote the song from the perspective of his older brother, Tony, meeting baby Bernie. So it kind of feels like Bernie Taupin was playing up his own greatness because he was the greatest discovery. Track 9, The Cage, has a bit of a different feel, not so Baroque. It has a bit of a rock and roll edge with a bit of orchestral production underlying it. I don't know the exact timeline of when Bernie Taupin would have known for sure of Elton John's sexuality. I mean, I have a sense from the Rocket Man movie that they mostly got along about it pretty well. But I mean, it certainly reads like a sort of closeted gay protest song in hindsight. Goes, for I've never loved in a cage or talked to friends or just waved. Or another part goes, well, I walk while they talk about virtue, just raised on my back leg and snarls, watched you kiss your old daddy with passion and tell dirty jokes as he died. So again, one thing I noticed when looking up lyrics for the song, Bernie Taupin, like a lot of songwriters, he was a bit hesitant to say there was any meaning to things. He'd often said, oh, it's just about a vague feeling like alienation or feeling trapped. But with this song, given that it's Elton John singing it, you just have to wonder. And finally, it ends with a song called The King is Dead. Lyrically, it feels kind of a low-key Bob Dylan imitation, possibly even a rehashing of the message of Like a Rolling Stone. And the way that line, The King is Dead, is actually delivered and the overall production, it contributes to the recurring musical theme in this album of going for a broadly old-fashioned song, certainly at least evoking back to the Baroque period. Now, normally when CDs have bonus tracks, I don't talk about them because I want to talk about the true album. That said, this one had 3 bonus tracks: Bad Side of the Moon, Gray Seal, and Rock and Roll Madonna. And while Gray Seal would go on to be a part of another Elton John album, the Goodbye Yellow Brick Road record, I have to say these 3 tracks being at the end here, they absolutely livened up Elton John, because I didn't love this record as a whole without the bonus tracks. I felt the Baroque ones sort of brought the mood down too much, but Bad Side of the Moon is absolutely groovy. It's a song about being a bohemian outsider figure, and it has such a rock and roll edge. Lyrically, it sounds kind of like something Creedence Clearwater would write. I mean, maybe I'm just thinking of Bad Moon Arising, but it's a really cool song. It's a completely different pace of what's on the album. And Gray Seal is very cool lyrically. It seems to be about how human culture finds ways to obscure truth. So the singer is asking an actual seal for advice. He's saying, Gray Seal, you look wise. Maybe you actually are, because clearly as humans are not. And finally, Rock and Roll Madonna. It feels like a statement of intent, lyrically kind of similar to Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. So it was interesting to see what happened with Elton John early in his career. It's surprising how serious some of the tracks sound with the Baroque feel. It certainly is fun to put together that kind of stuff in the studio, even if it doesn't make great songs. Another thing I noticed is a couple songs reminded me of the stuff that Cat Stevens was recording around this time. So I mentioned that Take Me to the Pilot sounds a lot like the Cat Stevens song, The Joke. And I think was Need You to Turn To reminds me of Cat Stevens's Sad Lisa. And I certainly know that he and Elton John worked together. They recorded a rough track called Honeyman when they were both at the beginnings of their careers. So that influence is certainly possible. I feel like on the CD edition, the bonus tracks really made this one, but Your Song is great. Take Me to the Pilot is pretty good. Border Song can be enjoyable as well, but really those bonus tracks, Bad Sign of the Moon, Gray Seal, they made this experience. I'm Zach Morgenstern. This is Ludwig von B. See you next time.